This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025, and I have the most excellent Chris Velasco here with me of the Washington Post. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Miriam. It's really good to see you. It's been a couple weeks, which is maybe the least amount of time since instances of seeing each other, but it is always nice to just sit down and catch up.
Absolutely. Listen, it's not been a very busy week. Obviously, everybody's still regurgitating Galaxy stuff, right? So that's good. But at the same time, I kind of want to talk about something else, because last week I did an entire podcast with Nirav only about Samsung, right?
Okay.
And I believe the audience is still digesting that. As you can imagine, having Nirav for an hour on the show talking about.
Full disclosure, I have not yet listened to that episode, but I'm just imagining in this moment what it is like, you and Nirav just going for it. Yeah.
I'll send you the video version because we're sitting in the same room in the hotel, and like there's the facial.
Oh, did you do this in New York?
Oh yeah, we did it in person right after our content capture. It was a lot of fun, and because of that, and this is a treat for the patrons, I did not have the phones because we hadn't gotten our review units yet. So I'm going to give you guys a little preview here of how thin this thing is. This is
my first time actually seeing it.
Like, you haven't seen it yet?
Well, no, because so here's the thing about the way briefings work now, and maybe you get this a little more now.
The USB-C port will really tell you what's going on.
That's nuts.
So I don't have the Z Flip. They only give me the Fold, but the Z Flip is coming. It's just, depending on your hierarchy and the scale of publications, you get some device and others. I'm very happy I've got the Z Fold. That's the one I wanted to focus on anyway.
Yeah, it is also, this is inside baseball. We don't have to talk about this, but
yeah,
it is just genuinely interesting to see sort of how your rank within the hierarchy you just mentioned kind of evolves over time. Like you could get everything one year and nothing at all the next. And it feels like so much of that is just out of your control.
Yeah. And, it's a nice phone. Like I think that, there's a lot of discussion. We're going to talk about that, about how it might be actually the thinnest phone in the world. I'm just showing you the inside now, and I can see how the crease is very, very minimal here.
How long have you had this? You've had this since
a week or so.
Do you miss the under display camera at all?
No. It's here's the thing. I've been using those Chinese folding phones, so for me this is not so wow, because it's about the same dimension. On paper, it's exactly the same dimension as the Oppo that I've been using for 5 months. Mm-hmm. But none of them had under display cameras, except for Nubia and Red Magic on their bar phones. They have those, and they're better than Samsung's ever was. So Samsung's, it's a good riddance, basically. Like, put a hole punch, put a freaking 10 megapixel, and that's what they did, and it's way, way better. So I'm not, like, the only time you really notice, if you're like doing YouTube or something and you're rotating the phone so that you can get the maximum 16:9 size, and then you like have that little hole in the corner. But, if you have an iPhone or something, you're used to the pill shape getting in your videos. It's not huge. Your brain just deals with it. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about Samsung. We've got a few things. I just wanted to like show the audience, this thing is insanely thin. And, Honor's Magic V5 came out. It's technically thinner, but it turns out if they have a pre-applied screen protector, and with the pre-applied screen protector, it's actually thicker than the Z Fold 7. So the Z Fold 7 could be the thinnest because out of the box, there's no screen protector. Like, I think it's like clutching at straws at this point,
for sure.
And look, it's a formidable design and hardware exercise on the part of Samsung, except for things like battery and cameras, where the Chinese are totally obliterating them, right? And so we talked about all this last week, and I think, it's, you'll get more on the show. I will review the phone. I'm writing a review for Hot Hardware, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, I'll talk about the other phone that came out last week. Well, it didn't come out, but we all got our review units last week, and that's nothing. I got 2 of them. It's funny. So,
did you get the black and the white?
Yeah. So here's what happened. Some pubs, like especially YouTubers, they all got both. But for those of us who just write about phones, they sent us one. So for me, they actually sent me the white one. But like, I don't know what happened. All I know is the people who went to London for the event, I wasn't invited, got their phones on site at the event. And then the people who, knew we're getting one, we were hopefully like getting it before the embargo, right? Which was the day before Samsung's event. But it never arrived. Like it never arrived.
I do remember this. Yeah.
And so like that's why I would have shown you folks before. Like it just didn't come. So I was like, I'm not going to be able to review it until I'm done with Galaxy now. It's kind of a shame because some reviews are already out there. But I'm going to review it on the show for you today with Chris's help. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
But here's what happened. They sent me a white one to San Francisco here while I was in New York. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be back for like a week because I'm going to Vancouver after this, and then I'm going to Santa Barbara for a car thing. So is there any way you can send me another one at the hotel or something? So I got this one, the black one or gray one or whatever color that is. I got that one at, look at you. You're right there.
Hey, look at that guy.
So this is the phone in black. It's not quite as striking, but as you can see, I've got mail apparently.
And see, that's one of the areas, I'm sure there will be others, but that's the one thing I might disagree with you about kind of right out the gate. I have felt so jealous only getting the white one just because I don't know, like
you like the black one.
I generally like a dark mode person, but like having the little kind of like red accents and the little kind of glossy like essential button on the side,
that's
like
the AI
it just reads a little more polished, a little more premium.
And there's a bunch of controls. Here are the ports, and on top there's a speaker. Anyway, look, it's a really lovely phone. I really like it. A lot of people were pissed off about the design and the weird how it's so asymmetric with these cameras. This is the this up here is the periscope telephoto. This is the main. This is the ultra wide. They're all 50 megapixels. Look, the thing is, I've got the white one. I literally got back yesterday. I haven't unboxed the white one yet, so it's back here on that shelf where all my phones and boxes are. And it's going to be unboxed. I'll make a video for you guys. Like I promise you, because I didn't unbox the black one. I needed to start using it, and so now I'll do a white unboxing with a comparison black and white in that unboxing since I have both phones. That way you can see a little closer up than this relatively lower quality video here. So for those of you who are listening and now I've shown two phones on video and you're like, I'm listening to an audio. Why? Yes, there is a video and the video is on Patreon. And so if you join my Patreon, you'll get the video. Patreon.com/TNK.
See, I show up and all your process like goes out the window. We're showing video. We're showing phones.
No, this is totally normal. This is the normal chaos. This is the normal chaos. No, it's fine because I just realized, I have these phones to show. And so what is your take? You've played with the phone now, right?
Yeah, I've been using it for close to a week, something like that. Yeah. I've really enjoyed it so far, and sort of bear in mind, I was like a full-time mobile reviewer for several years. I sort of moved into a new role where so I'm coming at this from a bit of a break. I don't think I've used a Nothing phone since the Nothing Phone 2, and there's clearly been a lot of movement from that company since then. But for me, which is and maybe I'm sort of more representative of a regular person at this point, but coming back into the Nothing Fold and just picking up this device, which has pretty much at its core like made it its mission to kind of just dodge mobile design orthodoxy. It just feels nice. I don't know that I would buy this phone personally. I don't know that I would recommend it to a ton of people. It is divisive in that way, but it is just so nice to see a company that does not give an effing S and is willing to just do its own thing and throw caution to the wind in the way. It's so refreshing.
Yeah. Look, I have a few things to say about this phone. I'm a little torn on it. Like, look, I've had every Nothing phone since the phone 1 is the only one they never sent me a review in it, but I played with it. I had it at IFA. I borrowed it from Jaime Rivera for a few days at IFA 3 years ago. And I used it for that week I was there. And it was great because I got, almost like a chance to review it basically without really having it officially. And then same with my Magic V3 last year, my Honor. Honor doesn't send devices to most US journalists. Like you have to be like a super high tier YouTuber to get them anymore. I used to get them all the time, but the V3 is the beginning of the super slim folding phones like the Z Fold 7 ended up being, right? That was the first that went below that 9 millimeter thickness, right? Like the thickness of a regular bar phone. That was the first V3 last year. So I borrowed that phone, the V3 from our good friend Nick Gray at Fandroid. Thanks, Nick. And I had it Nick for Gray. Several months. But the point I'm making is that Nothing 2, Nothing Phone 2A, 3A, 3A Pro, and the CMF phones as well. Right. CMF Phone 1, CMF 2 Pro. I had all of those, and they're all brilliant in their own very special ways. The reason I did not review the Phone 3A and 3A Pro on Hot Hardware, but only on the podcast, was because there was another snafu like that, where the phone was supposed to arrive a few days before the embargo. The embargo was literally the day before MWC or during MWC or something like that this year. And the phone never came. So I had to go to MWC and start covering that. At that point, I can't write a review and hit the embargo. Man, I'm like on the ground running, right? And look, I'm not blaming, this is not pointing fingers. Logistics are logistics. Things happen.
And to be clear, like as well, like when you're talking about review units, Nothing is maybe the one company that I have personally have to deal with where my review units do not come from this country, right? Like if it's Apple, if it's Samsung, it's coming from California or New Jersey or whatever. Like those logistics, that's all fairly well planned for.
Yeah.
London is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I do get a lot of Chinese phones and I have zero issue with them arriving in time. So, I mean, look, I don't know what it is, but the point is, so hopefully things calm down just enough after I publish my Z Fold 7 review that I can jump onto the Nothing Phone 3 and actually write a review. But my take right now is this, I love the design. It doesn't offend me that's asymmetric. It doesn't offend me that the glyphs are gone per se. What I would have liked, and I know this is probably too expensive or complicated, especially since you have a wireless charging cord, I would have liked this matrix here, which is now blank because I've looked at my notifications by unlocking the phone earlier. That to be like the big circle in the back. It would have been great if it was just a bigger dot array, right? Like the same number of dots, but just bigger, and kind of mimic that or maybe on top of the wireless coil. But I don't think that would have worked electrically. Like it would interfere with the coil. So I get it. So that's the only thing that I would have loved to see. But I do want wireless charging, so that wouldn't have happened.
See, I could take wireless charging and throw it away and never lose a
so would you like a bigger glyph like that?
Absolutely.
Like a bigger glyph? Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you. I don't lament the loss of the glyph interface that we had before. I think it was a great idea. I think it was very sort of stylistically.
It was fun, but was it really fun. Useful?
No, that's the point.
Because you couldn't remember the patterns, right? Like
exactly.
Is that Chris calling me or is that John calling me? Right?
Exactly. It's a cool thing to show people, makes for a fun video, and then you never do it again. I have not found myself using glyph matrix a whole lot. Like
neither. Yeah. Look, look, the thing is, I don't like to use the word gimmick here. It is a little gimmicky.
Sure.
But it's fun gimmicky. When our phone's fun, right? So then the counterpoint to all that is, do you want to spend $7.99 on a phone that has this gimmicky little thing that then has to compromise on some other thing?
Sure.
Right? And I would be so critical about these compromises if CarPay didn't keep insisting on calling this a flagship. So to me, if they had approached this as this is Nothing's flagship, this is our best, or simply this is our best phone ever, or even saying this is an affordable flagship, which it isn't because $799, but at the same time, like, or maybe say something like it's a premium rate range. Like some have not used the word flagship and compare yourself to the existing flagships because, look, I know that the benchmarks don't matter, and use the software on Nothing is always absolutely top notch. That's actually my favorite part of Nothing phones. But 8S Gen 4 is not 8 Elite, okay? Like it's just not. And it's hard, especially in our market here, but it's even hard in China because there are 8 Elite phones in China that sell for $500. So like converted, right? And so the Nothing Phone 3 in other parts of Asia is still more expensive, like in India, still more expensive than some of the 8 Elite phones sold in China. Right?
So like I take your point. On a performance level, in sort of a few other key areas, like yes, the Nothing Phone 3 does not stack up to the greatest of the greats available at this moment. Does it ever feel to you though like we're all getting a little too worked up over the definition of flagship? Like whether or not CarPay said this is Nothing's flagship versus just blatantly using flagship and hoping to kind of...
Well, they use that they hyped it a lot with that word. It's like, that's my point. And again, like, this is totally Carl's playbook, right? Remember OnePlus Nord, remember OnePlus, all the OnePluses that he was involved in. They would overhype it with marketing, and it didn't mean that they underdelivered. The phone is really great. I don't want anyone to come away from this saying, I shouldn't buy this phone because there's an 8S Gen 4. Absolutely not. Buy this phone if you want a phone supported in the US that has awesome everything, very well balanced overall, but has this cool or gimmicky, whatever you want to call it, little display in the back that's fun, and that hopefully will gain some functionality over time. That's the bottom line of this phone. But if you want to be nitpicky, you don't live in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum, and that's the problem. And then when in India you can buy an 8 Elite for cheaper than this phone, is it as fun? Is it as cool? No, maybe not. But that's the point. Like, some people want to game on their phones, and you're gonna get a better experience on S25, like a base S25, because it has a better, better thermals, it has better chip, and it's the same exact list price right now in the US. And that's the part that's hard. If this had cost $749, just $50 less, I'd be like, okay, fine. But it's the word flagship that it's like, okay, here's another example. Back to Samsung. That ultra marketing, ultra on that Z Flip and Z Fold, right? No, this is not an ultra camera system. The Z Fold 7 camera system is not even remotely close to what you get on even an S25, okay? And I know it's not going to make a big difference to a lot of people, but you really notice it when you zoom, right? And when you compare it to like the Magic V3, the Magic V5, the Oppo Find N5, which is the same thickness, the phone I've been using for 5 months, which is essentially a OnePlus Open 2. It's a successor to the OnePlus Open, right? That phone has much better cameras, especially in the telephoto. It's like 50 megapixel, 3x periscope. You can easily do 30x, maybe even 60x photos with it that are usable. 30x definitely still good, but I've tested it. I've tested them side by side. In Brooklyn, I had them both in my pocket, and I did, shots of that bridge that's in the distance from the dock where we were at. And I'm like, here's the takeaway, guys. This is the sad part. This happened after last week's podcast, so obviously it's new information to you. But the 10x photos I took with the Z Fold 7 are the same potato quality as the 10x photos I took with the Edge. Because that 10 megapixel 3x telephoto might as well not exist. When you have a 200 megapixel sensor, you can get the same quality as a dedicated 10 megapixel 3x. Like, it's not really great. And so they don't even seem to be fusing the two sensors like some previous Samsung phones have. So the quality is not, it's not terrible. It's usable at 10x. It's just not like you put it side by side with the Oppo, and the Oppo like is super clear at 10x. It's nice and sharp, and and you're like, how is that ultra? And then the battery life, 4,400 milliamp hour versus, well, like the Oppo is 5,600. The V5 from Honor is like 6,100. They're all silicon carbon batteries, right? Like and then the charging speed, 80 watt on the Oppo, 65 watt on the Magic.
That's crazy.
And like the Oppo has 50 watt wireless charging. Like, they're not messing about. And my point is, when you're used to that, and then you get 25 watt charging. So this is the nice thing about this Nothing phone, 65 watt charging. And it's PD. It's not a proprietary charger. You don't get a charger in the box. Just pull out a MacBook charger that's like 90 watt or whatever, and you're good to go. You get.
I'm sure this has come up on the show before, but I am curious for your take on this. Right, like I've sort of withdrawn a bit from the mobile realm, so again, I'm sort of a little more representative of the average person in the States, and it feels so much like the gulf between sort of what is sort of expected and what's achievable on a smartphone that's intended to be a mass market seller in the United States versus what's available literally in China, which all sounds kind of amazing. Like you very keenly have that experience, right? Like you've got one foot in both worlds. Yeah,
well, I do it on purpose because I think as a smaller creator, first of all, it's really hard to get the attention covering just the US mainstream phones. A and B, I love phones, as you know, and I want to taste the forbidden fruit, as it were. And thankfully, I've got the connections to do that. the only one being missing right now is, as I said, Honor to some extent, but Huawei as well. We get nothing from Huawei, and I think they make some of the most interesting things like that trifold, the crazy Pura 80 ultra camera phone with the shiftable, telephoto zoom, like it's crazy stuff like that.
My question to you, like the reason I brought it up is, do you think the average sort of American consumer is even aware really that there is so much better that is actively happening?
They are
right
not,
now?
but my job is to make them aware. Like, I think that, here's the problem, right? It's like the same, I cover EVs and car tech for Tech Radar a lot and for other publications. And part of the reason I got in that, because I'm a car enthusiast, because I've been driving EVs for something like 12 years now. But I mostly want to inform the world out there that we live in a vacuum. We live in a bubble that's a completely different universe than most of Europe and most of Asia when it comes to electric cars. Like, we have the short end of the stick. And I think we have the short end of the stick on smartphone, at least on flagship. Well, on everything. Because if you look at the budget phones, like that CMF Phone 2 Pro, okay, here's what's crazy. And I'm going to actually, maybe I'll do that for my review. The CMF Phone 2 Pro from nothing costs $279, has a 2x telephoto, has two 50 megapixel rear cameras, a main and a 2x telephoto, and it has an 8 megapixel ultra wide. For $279, has an OLED screen, like, it's amazing. It takes better photos at 10x than the Z Fold 7.
Not having tried either.
$279.
That is wild.
Now, and this is a phone you can buy in the US, although you have to sign up for the developer program, which is free, but it's not supporting all the bands, unlike this Nothing Phone 3. So there's some caveats. But my point is, this is where the rest of the world is at, and people need to know. Now, the average person walking into a Verizon store doesn't care, and they still won't listen to my podcast, so they still won't care. But there's a lot of enthusiasts out there, like you and I, who are into tech, who might not know, reading just WAPO or CNET or The Verge, that, well, The Verge maybe, because they cover a lot of cool stuff, but maybe they will not know that there's an Oppo Find N5 that predates the Z Fold 7 by 5 months, that's exactly the same dimensions, yet has stylus support, active stylus on both screens, has a 5600 milliamp hour battery, and has a 50 megapixel 3x periscope telephoto that just blows away the cameras on the Z Fold 7 for less money. And it's globally available in the sense that there's a global ROM. You don't have to worry about weird Chinese spyware or anything. You get GMS, you get all your Google stuff, and it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite. So guess what? The radios work great in the US and Canada. I've been using it on, well, you won't be able to use it on Verizon, but because that's always the issue. But AT&T and T-Mo, and like things like Mint Mobile or Fi, no problem at all. So they could, if they wanted to, have these phones. Would they get support from their carrier? No. Would they get warranty coverage? Hard. They'd have to go abroad probably for that, because Oppo does warrant their phones worldwide, but they don't have any support in the US.
Sure.
But you can go to Canada. Oppo sells in Canada, so they don't sell that phone, but they do have support network there, so they might be able to replace your
I didn't
screen
realize that. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's getting harder and harder. Like, China kind of comes and goes in Canada in terms of their products. So it's like some years you get the stuff, some years you don't. The bottom line is that, to me, the Nothing Phone 3 is a great phone. I just wish it was a little more affordable. And I wish that they had not pushed so hard, like in the Samsung, same with the Ultra, that Nothing hadn't pushed so hard on this flagship marketing, because it is very close, but it's not quite there yet. But industrial design, color, like that little recording light, the red thing here, that flashes when you're doing a video, that stuff is mwah. And on top of that, the software and the essential space. I think my only concern with these things, and I talked about that on my Razor review as well, is as soon as a phone has like an AI button and it actually like is useful and cool and helpful, the problem is that where does that data go once you change phones, right? Or like even within the same ecosystem, like, does it stay on the device? If you transfer it to the device, how secure is that? Because now it knows so much about you, right? And so with Essential Space, I think it's great. I like it, but will I use it? No, because I'm using Gemini, because that is a known entity for me I can use across multiple devices, and my knowledge kind of carries onward. So yeah, I don't want to be hypercritical. Like, if I had to review this phone, which I will eventually, I would give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. Like, it's
a 4.5. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
like maybe 4.25. Like, it's definitely in the 4 to 5 I can never give anybody a 5. My favorite bestest phones ever have gotten 4.75. Like OnePlus 13 is an example of a phone that would probably get a 4.5 or 4.75. Because, for our market, it's available. It has all the good stuff. The thing about this phone, the cameras are no slouch on this thing. It's not, okay, so the thing is, you didn't get the 3A Pro, right? The 3A Pro was their first phone with a periscope telephoto. And it was really good for the money. I mean, especially because it's a $450 phone, right? So it's like, wow. But this one is actually a smaller periscope sensor. So it's not as, technically on paper, not as good as the periscope on the Nothing Phone 3A Pro. But I think the Snapdragon gives you better image processing and stuff. So you're definitely getting a better camera system. But here's the thing. Nothing's cameras were always a little weak, but I feel like since this year, starting this year, with all three, the budget, $279 CMF Phone 2 Pro, the Nothing Phone 3A and 3A Pro, the only difference between those two is the telephoto is just a 2x versus the massive 3x periscope thing, right? That big camera pod in the back. And then this phone, the 3, is the imaging is finally competitive. Even blows away, I think, some of the competition at their price point for the cheaper phones. This, I think, is competitive with, like, I think it's very close to like a Samsung or an iPhone or a Pixel, but not quite there. It's like it's 90%, 90% of the way there.
And it feels like so much of that addition, like it's not going to make up the full 10% gap purely in software, but like surely with a little bit of a little tuning and attention in the months and weeks to come, like I could see it getting close enough.
And they do software updates often. So that's
speaking of which,
thing,
like it feels like so many, I don't know which of my impressions have to be left by the wayside because they just dropped a software update like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Look, I think it's great. I personally prefer it in white, but the black one, if you want to be more stealth, if you're Marquez and you like your black and red, that's going to be the phone for you, right? And you like the black one better. I think that the reason I like the white one better is it's got more contrast with the lenses and the matrix in the back, and in that sense, it kind of lives up a bit better, I think, to the Nothing design language of like this kind of quirky awesomeness. But if you want to be a little more discreet, I think the black one's great. You can't go wrong with either. And I would not probably spend more than on more storage or anything. Like it's not worth it. The phone runs super smooth, super fast, super well.
Miriam, let me ask you. So this device has a silicon carbon battery.
It does.
This is the first device I've used with a silicon
You haven't
carbon
used the
battery.
OnePlus 13?
No, I sort of lost touch with OnePlus, and that's something I want to circle back to. OnePlus is going through some interesting stuff. But so my understanding is one of the knocks against silicon carbon batteries is that sort of over time, they're faster to sort of lose overall capacity. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, so I'll link to an article. By the way, I'll link to an article about the Z Fold 7 thickness controversy or whatever, and we've talked about that already. And I'll link to an article here in my notes. We'll get through some of those rapid fire news items eventually, but you make a good point. The silicon carbon batteries are a little bit of a challenge. They're challenging, and I think in that sense, a lot of manufacturers are very cautious about them because here's the thing, you need the know-how to manufacture them. You need the know-how to charge them properly. You need the know-how to incorporate them in a design. And you think you have to understand, silicon carbon's been around in EVs. It's not like a new thing. Right. It's just they're more dense, so they give you more energy and less space. But because of that, they're a little more special, and they need to be petted a little better and treated more like a little more care. So that means the charging technology needs to be a little more advanced. You need more sensors. You need some software expertise to get the charging right. And I think that, again, China being so integrated in their technology, the companies who make the batteries for EVs are the companies who make the batteries for the phones. They know how the BMS, like the battery management system software, should operate for one, so they know for the other. They sell this to the phone manufacturers, or the phone manufacturers like Huawei and Honor develop their own. Here's what you need to know. They will, over time, degrade faster if you fully charge them. And they will also have the risk of growing, like expanding.
Spicy pillows, yeah.
Spicy pillows. but that's only if they're not handled properly. The benefit is you get way more energy density. So the trick is most of them, and this is what Nothing's doing for this. There's two reasons a Nothing phone says 5150 or whatever milliamp hours for us, and 55 for the India market.
It's the 20 watt hour thing, isn't it?
So it's the 20 watt hour thing for the US. And the reason OnePlus has a 6,000 milliamp hour battery in the US is because they have two cells. It's per cell, right? Mm-hmm. So if you put two cells, and by the way, the reason you put two cells in a phone is when you want to charge at 80 watt, you can either charge one cell and push it hard, which is dangerous and probably ages it faster, or you can put two cells and charge them in parallel, less hard. And then you still get your capacity and your fast charging, right? So that's, and also you get around the 20 watt hour rule that North America has for batteries, for individual cells. Mm-hmm. So that's one reason. But the second reason is that the battery in our phones is actually a 5,500 milliamp hour phone battery. It's just not being charged at 100%. That's how they get around it. And that's actually good because it's a silicon carbon battery. So it's always going to be sitting at like whatever it is, 92% or whatever. I don't know. Do the math, guys. But it's probably less than that. So that means the longevity on this battery should be really, really good. And yeah, you lose 7% or whatever, 6% battery life, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Like at that point, 5,150 milliamp hours is very competitive for a bar style phone, especially in North America.
Yeah, I'm not complaining too hard here.
Unlike Asia, where now we're starting to see 8,300 milliamp hour on that Honor X70. The X70 is a budget-ish, like an affordable, cheapish, not super high-end, like Snapdragon 6 Gen 4 and a single rear camera with OIS. So it's an Honor phone that's probably messed in for India. It has 80 watt wired charging and 80 watt wireless on some models, and has, get this, a 8,300 milliamp hour battery in a 8-point-something millimeter chassis. So it's the same regular size as an iPhone or a Galaxy.
Yeah.
And it has but it's a war they've started a war. Like, I think Honor's really pushing hard on these high capacity, but Realme, I have a Realme phone here, the Realme GT7, that has a 7,000 milliamp hour battery, silicon carbon. It lasts 3 freaking days of normal use, man, on a charge. And then when you want to pop it off, it's 80 watt, right? Of course. And this is like the GT7 is like a $400 phone. It's not like it's a pseudo flagship. It has like one of those Dimensity 9400E, which is the economy version of the 9400, aka 8S Gen 4 equivalent. And so they don't call it a flagship because it's not, but it's almost. And 7,000 milliamp hours. So now we're getting 8,300. So my point is that's what silicon carbon is going to deliver. I know that by 2028, some phones will ship with 10,000 milliamp hour batteries and be the same normal thickness as a normal phone and be safe. And they might not even fully charge them, because at that point, when you have that much headroom, you might as well make it a 9,500 milliamp hour battery and not do the top 500, right? And then you get that safety blanket of it not expanding, of it not being stressed and having more charge cycles. But look, the reality is this. A lot of people are like, well, I want my phone to last a very long time, so charge cycles matter. I want to be able to charge it, 1,000 times. Realistically, you'll never do that. Like your phone, you're gonna upgrade before your phone, like unless you really mistreat your battery, you're gonna upgrade before that. And most phones nowadays manage the battery really well. Like they will leave you, if you keep plugged in, like they'll leave it at 80% and then they'll do the topping off at the end kind of thing. They're very smart. So I don't think you should worry about silicon carbon. It's been in phones for 3 years in China now, and I think we've never seen pillow, spicy pillow. I have no spicy pillows on any of those phones yet, and we are high candidates as reviewers for that, because we have the phones and then we store them for months and we don't touch them for months, and who knows what happens to the battery. I don't pay attention to what battery level I store them at. Ideally, you want to store a phone at 40% charge. That's the ideal. Any lithium ion battery of any kind, the silicon carbon is a lithium ion technology, wants to live at 40% in storage. So, keep that in mind. If you're going to store a phone for a while and you bought it with your own money, maybe discharge it a little bit or charge it a little bit to the right spot.
Hey, since we're talking about it, of the devices that you've had over the years in storage that have gone spicy pillow,
only Samsung.
I was going to say, have any of them not been Samsung phones?
No. No, and very few, to be honest. Even in a Samsung, I think I had an S6 Edge, and then I had a Note
S6
8.
Edge, my
Note
S6
8
definitely did that.
That pillowed on me, but that's the only ones really. It's not that bad. Like, I tend to treat my phones pretty well, but here's the thing: like Samsung, I'm worried about Samsung with adopting silicon, or not adopting silicon carbon, simply because they have that trauma of the Note 7,
Sure.
and they need to see a therapist about this. Like, this is the future. And
to be clear, everyone should probably see a therapist.
Yeah, of
Maybe
course,
Samsung specifically.
This is where I need to insert my BetterHelp sponsorship. But the point is that I think that Apple and Samsung will eventually come around. It's just that they don't have any incentive to right now, because the American customer, most people out there have an iPhone. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Especially the young people. And the people who don't have an iPhone have a Samsung phone. And then there's a few of us who have a Pixel, and a few of us who have a Moto, and a few of us who have a very, very few of us who have a OnePlus, right? That's the breakdown. And I hate to say that, right? But at the same time, those people are not, they're totally in this kind of like habit loop of charging their phone every night, or charging their phone as soon as they get to their desk, or whatever. They don't need fast charging, and they don't need large capacity batteries, because they're constantly on top of, they have their own trauma around charging.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
But in India, and this is why a lot of these phones, like that 8300 milliamp hour Honor, are made for India, because India doesn't have reliable power. In many places, people who are don't have the resources, the money to buy a fancy phone. They buy these phones because they're like, look, I can use this as a power bank to power my spouse's phone when they run out. I can go to when I'm waiting for the train at the station, I can plug in at 80 watt into the wall outlet, the public wall out, and in 5 minutes, I can get, 60% charge. And because my phone's going to run 4 days on a charge, I'm good for 2 days now. I don't have to find an outlet. I don't have to worry if the power goes out in my neighborhood because of, bad grid. This is the reality these people live with. So I think that they're much more attuned to having this need for higher capacity battery. And those of you who are listening from India, correct me if I'm wrong, like tell me in the comments, but I feel like that's kind of how it started. And I think it's a healthy thing, because for all of us, it's a benefit. Like, I love when I don't have to charge a phone every day. Like that Realme, I was using it, on and off on top of that. So very light use, because it's not my main phone. And I was like, I wouldn't plug it. I'd look at the charge at the end of the day. I'm like, oh, look, I've used, my 70 after day one. Well, guess what? I'm not going to plug it in. Why would I plug it in? I've got 2 more days to go here. I'm good. And once you start thinking that way, you stop thinking habit loop of plugging in at night. And I think eventually we'll get there with the US. But I think for that to happen, Apple needs to adopt it, because Samsung, I think, because of the Note 7 experience, is probably going to be the last one to adopt silicon carbon. But I guarantee you, and again, 2028, did I say, or whatever, for 10,000 milliamp hour battery? I guarantee you by then, every phone will be silicon carbon.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I wonder, I'm not super read into the specific 20 watt hour requirement, past which I believe a device with a battery that exceeds that particular specification has to be labeled a dangerous good or something like that. Like, that would clearly have to change. We're kind of butting up against the limits of that already now.
Every phone can be a dual cell phone, and then the regulatory stuff doesn't matter, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
So that's the solution. I mean, like, in fact, that's a better solution, because it's less stress on the batteries when you charge at 80 watt when you have 2 cells. So
yeah.
There you go. To put 2 silicon carbon cells in there, and you're good to go. So basically, it's like, I think we're going to see more of these. And it's amazing how fast it's accelerating. Like, we went from 6,000 on the OnePlus 3, like in this year alone, to like 6,500 on some phones, including some Realme phones. Then this Realme was 7,000. Then I think Xiaomi made one with 7,000. That was like a mid-range or a budget phone in some markets. And then Honor's like X70, 8,300. Eat that. And it's like, but it's like, remember guys, these are not the Energizer phones we saw at MWC 5 years ago that were an inch thick. These are like freaking normal form factor phones with normal features. There's nothing unusual. Well, in this case, maybe there's only a single rear camera, probably because the battery takes up most of the surface area of the inside of the phone, and the circuit board is tiny, But I think, like, still, I think this is very impressive. Let's run through some news items real quick. So, Phone 3, we talked about it. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of really cranky people out there about the design, and I'm not one of them. There's a lot of cranky people there about the processor. I'm not really one of them. I just feel like the messaging could have been a little bit I don't know. I feel like this is all very academic, but it could. I don't think they could ever afford an 8 Elite. They don't have the numbers to get a good price on that, and I can totally understand that that's all they could do. But then don't like get all like, ooh, look at us, like just we made a phone. It's cool. It's our best phone ever, By the way, speaking of phone 3 and headphone 1 I reviewed on Hot Hardware a few weeks ago, and
you did it
weeks
up.
ago.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then I also did on the podcast 2 weeks ago, I think. These are now available globally. You can actually now buy them. They're like, PSA, if you were waiting, you can go out and the Nothing Store or Amazon or wherever and get them. So go get them. I like the headphones. They were okay.
Yeah, me too. It's especially considering like we both live in San Francisco. You not all the time, but like, you know what I mean? I live quite close to downtown. I walk to the office every day. And like, there is very much this sort of engineer trope of like walking around with like the sort of black, rounded, shell-shaped backpack and like the very kind of specific like
Well,
Sony.
a lot of people have AirPod Maxes, right?
This is also true.
The reality.
Yeah. But like,
I
do
see them more than the Sonys, honestly. It's kind of weird.
I see a fair few dudes walking around with Sony with those backpacks.
Yeah, me too.
So like the sort of like weirdly Beatle-like aesthetic that kind of gives you, like it is, I would walk around. I've walked around a couple days wearing the Nothing headphone ones, and the number of people who just sort of like, and I don't like being the center of attention genuinely, so this was not amazing for me. But the amount of people who are just like, what is up with that? Like, it is not for everyone. Certainly, I think the control cluster is maybe the best of any set of headphones I've ever used. But yeah, lot to like. If you don't mind being a focal point in your life and out in the world. You stand out,
and that could be very polarizing. If you want to blend in, your Sonys are better. The Sonys also have better ANC, lighter, more robust. I have a whole bunch of dings on the aluminum.
I was just going to say,
and I'm not very. That's something I didn't write about in the review because my review only had them for 3 days or something when I reviewed them. I took a single flight to New York and just like, I'm always very gentle with my devices, but just putting them down on my seat in the pocket in front of me, like they're in the official travel case.
That's all you did?
Like, well, they're the official travel case most of the time. Like until I got on the plane, they were in the official travel case. I think what happened is that I tossed them on the chair, like from from my hand's height as I was going to the bathroom on the flight. And then what happened is that the two metal parts were like clunk against each other and they dinged each other. And I'm like, what? And I've actually sent an email to Nothing to show them and say, hey guys, I know this is just purely cosmetic. There's nothing wrong with the headphones, but it doesn't make you look good. Like, if a single flight for me, who is a careful person, dinged my headphones. So, I don't know what you can do about that. If you nag
Nothing to release the AirPods bra style case for it.
No, there's that news today of a bra style case available in Dubai or something. Anyway, but the Nothing phones and headphones are out, so go get them. We have, of course, this whole debate about the Z Fold 7 and the thickness. And so here's the thing you have to understand is starting the V3 from Honor last year, which was the first sub 9mm shut folding phone and sub 4.5mm open folding phone, we're pretty much standardized on this 8.8, 8.9mm close, and then 4.2-ish, 4.3-ish millimeter open. Like this has been like that since the V3, which is a year ago now. And then the Oppo Find N5 is exactly on paper the same dimension as the Z Fold 7. And we're not talking camera pods are excluded.
Sure,
here.
of course.
Camera pods can be ridiculous, and they are on most of these phones. There's also the Vivo Fold X5 that's come out since then. That one doesn't have an 8 Elite, but it has the same form factor and size and things. So it's kind of like where we're standardizing. So in that sense, the Z Fold 7 is not that impressive, but there's this insane debate happening right now, especially with on Twitter, right? Especially with some of the leakers about whether the phone is the thinnest or not, whether Honor has lied about the thickness of their phone. And as I mentioned earlier, it really comes down to one thing. First of all, calipers, the ones we buy on Amazon, they're not that precise. No. And depending on how like perpendicular you are to the surface, and also these phones have give. You can push them in a bit. So you really have to measure them very carefully, and for that you really need like a micrometer, which is a very expensive specialized measuring equipment. So who cares about all the reality is these are super freaking thin and awesome, all of them in their own right. But it looks like the screen protector that's pre-applied on the V5 makes it slightly thicker. And so they're losing their minds. I mean, I love Ice Universe. You're the best leaker ever. I love you, but come on, like chill out. It's okay. We're gonna be happy. We're gonna be fine. So that's kind of funny, right?
I feel very grateful to have missed out on basically all of this drama.
Yeah, well, if you click on that link, that I'll put a link in the show. If you click on that, Chris, you'll see that you can read up on the drama. We like a bit of drama. It's fun. Okay, so Samsung Galaxy S26 Plus is not going to happen next year. That's the latest rumor. We've heard that on and off, but it seems confirmed that we're going to get an Edge instead. And you know what? I think thin phones are in. I think it's more and more thin phones are going to be happening, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, I will say, like,
does it piss you off?
Well, no, it's made a lot of sense that Ultra has sort of like taken over, like the deals you get on this stuff, like the amount of carriers and Samsung and stuff are pushing this, like that clearly will rule the big phone roost for them for a long time. The edges will factor into that severely too. This is just something I have discovered happening to myself as I have gotten older. Sometimes an Ultra is just like a little too much in the hand. Like I do wish I had a little bit less.
It's like, you know, the arthritis, you know?
Look, I'm not going to put out that into the universe. I don't want to, maybe I do, I don't know. But genuinely, just like the things that I would be willing to forgive as like a 25, 26-year-old phone reviewer and just kind of running my body into the ground are things that I have no choice but to pay attention to now. So for those people out there who appreciated the very specific blend of pretty premium power and performance and just like not an enormous slab in your hand, I empathize with your loss. We're all kind of going through this together.
Yeah, true. So, basically, I'm not surprised. I think this is a good strategy. You can't make that many phones.
Yeah.
And the Edge will get better. I liked it a lot. I think that, again, it's the same as the Z Fold 7 in the sense that battery needs to improve in terms of capacity. It's not a deal breaker right now. For the habit of people in North America who charge their phone every day and are not heavy duty users, an Edge will last you all day, no problem. It's just, I like a little more runway, especially because I want to go to CES and do stuff, For
whatever. Sure. Oh yeah.
But for my work, but that's just me. So if they can make it with a little bit of better battery, a little better camera system next year, great. That would be a killer phone. And yeah, the problem is pricing. We didn't really talk too much about the $2,000 price point of the Z Fold 7. But look, it's not just that like the Edge is more expensive and the Z Fold 7 are more expensive. It's just that the inflation is real. It's also happening out there. And tariffs are not making things better. So I hate to say this, everything's getting more expensive. And so in that context, maybe it's slightly excusable. I don't know. The other thing that I think is interesting that happened this week is that Google has officially announced their Pixel event for the 10 series coming on August 20th. So this is more of a PSA of mark your calendars, folks. Hopefully I will be maybe not there in person, but I'll have the devices pretty quickly. I'm working with Google on that right now.
I was just going to ask if I was going to see you there because I think that would be the next time I
haven't heard yet. In the affirmative, so stay tuned. And
Fingers
then
crossed. Related
to that, we have some specs. Again, this is leaks, so take it with a grain of salt. But with some specs for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, and it's a Pixel 9 Pro Fold with a new processor, a bigger battery, slightly, which is nice, and same camera system, which is a bit of a bummer. But I think like slightly bigger cover display, which is interesting. So that might mean, because the cover display on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is basically the same as the Pixel 9 base, right? And so I'm wondering if this rumor of the Pixel 10 Pro Fold having a bigger cover display means the Pixel 10 base is going to get it. Because, for Google, economies of scale makes sense to share displays and stuff. So we'll see what happens there. So these are some of the items I'll put in the show notes, folks. There's a few more things we have to talk about.
Wait, really quick. Did they say IP68 possibly for the 10 Fold?
You're right. There is. It's going to bump up to possibly 68, which is
would be
Would
real
quite
nice.
Something. There are some Chinese folding phones with 68, 69 now.
Oh yeah,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Again, see Chinese phones. I'm not.
Dude,
into
they're
this
on
stuff.
top of it. They're on top of it.
Did you see our friend from Verizon, George?
Yes, George.
He did
He's awesome.
Love him. He did a video. I think at the Jersey Shore. I think he lives
Did
around
he?
there. With the Z Fold 7, and I'm like, buddy, I know it's IP48. I know it's IP48. Theoretically, that's like fine for dust and particle ingress of things that are around a millimeter. I still would not have taken that thing to a beach. IP68 just for.
Well, he has an unlimited supply of Z Folds, so he doesn't care.
I don't know that he actually does. His budgets on these videos are pretty wild, though. If you have the opportunity the predilection to want to watch a Verizon employee just talk about stuff related to our interests for a while, George is great for that.
George is awesome, and he's good people too.
He is good people, yeah.
So yeah, check it out. I want to talk to you about this really great story from Lance at Tech Radar about interviewing the head of Android and talking about the merging of Chrome OS and Android. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, I think like everyone else, I believe this is such a long time coming. And this feels like so much the right moment for it, right? Like we're starting to see a renaissance for like ARM-powered PCs. I really hope this kind of gives Android developers more of a push to kind of take their large screen interfaces and experiences more seriously. Like I cannot remember the last time I've sort of used an app on an Android tablet that has felt like it's been really kind of thought through and intentional.
Yeah, and that's even true on when you unfold a book style folding phone.
I mean, I think book style foldables are technically worse than standard tablets
in a way. Yeah.
So yeah, like I want this to happen. I will say I also did enjoy the story. I wish there was just like a little follow up. Like we get the intro and it's like, I'm talking to Samir and Samir's like, yeah, I know. It's just like I
have the new Chromebook from Lenovo, the 14-inch Chromebook Plus with the MediaTek Compagno chip in it.
Is that the one you grabbed when we last saw each other?
That's right. And I have to say, it's been a while since I've actually fired up a Chromebook. And the integration with Android is tighter than ever. And,
for sure.
I can see this merging really well. And I'm not against it. I mean, it runs Android apps just fine. So, I think the challenge is like, for me, Chrome OS is really about a full-size desktop-like web experience. I even use, like when I use Google Photos or Google Docs on my Chromebook, I don't use the Android apps, right? Like I actually use the desktop apps.
Of course.
So the problem is, where does that line, like I think that line right now, it's nice to give people choice, but I think it's problematic because it keeps popping up saying, when I'm in Google Photos, the website, it says like, don't you want to run the app on Android? I'm like, absolutely not. I do not want it. I am on a laptop right now. I am not on a tablet. I am not on a phone.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I want. And so I think, giving people choice is good, but I think that there's a bit of if you're like a new user, you get a Chromebook for Christmas or something, it can be really confusing.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And I think that they can manage that a little better. And hopefully this merging will make that happen a little better. Where you can kind of pick a default app and maybe the default app is the website. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm also especially curious to see how the sort of interplay between whatever the full screen experience is for an app versus the traditionally Chrome OS behavior of running an Android app, just kind of like in typical phone style. Like you can force them to go full screen in certain cases, but like figuring out how to sort of elegantly make, mouse inputs and stuff like that happen. Like, I don't know that that's ever really been figured out. I wonder if developers will now be obliged to think through how an app should work, both as a full screen desktop-y sort of thing versus a sort of window to tablet kind of interface versus like the classic small Android app window. Like that has the potential to get really funky really fast. So I do not envy these developers the work that's ahead of them. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I'm not like, I'm holding judgment until I get a chance to try it, obviously.
For sure.
Stay tuned for that. It should be fun. We got a few more little rapid fire items I want to go through. Mark your calendars for iPhone 17 series potentially launching on September 8th. So, I mean, again, we will never know until we know. But I know a lot of you are anticipating, especially the Air. I am. And so perhaps you should mark your calendar for that week.
Second week of September.
That makes sense,
Shocking.
right? Yeah, exactly. So that's another public service announcement. We've got a bunch of OnePlus news here. I'm going to quickly go through it. As I mentioned in a previous podcast, that they had announced that they're making Buds 4 and a Watch 3, 43 millimeter. I have both here. They're great. The Buds 4 are not as good as their Buds Pros, but pretty close and pretty affordable. You lose a few things like wireless charging on the case, and they're not nearly as sexy and sleek, but for the price, they're pretty great. And then you're getting the Watch 3 is essentially the smaller version of the other watch, like the one I'm wearing right now, right? This one here, which is the big Watch 3. So imagine a 43 millimeter version of that. Smaller battery, slightly smaller screen without any compromises other than that. So you get a little less battery life out of it, but you get all the goodness. And if you're looking for a smaller watch, 18 millimeter lugs on it. So kind of a little more, I don't know, discreet is the word. I think it's pretty awesome. Like, I know some people don't want their watches. Like, I've got big wrists, so I need a big watch. Yeah. But some people don't want a big watch, and I totally get that.
And big watches, I think, in certain sort of fashion-forward communities, have kind of fallen out of favor as well. So, like, there's definitely. Sure. Hey, really quick, I meant to ask you about this. Apologies if this has come up on the show before. Do you what's your read on the sort of OnePlus sending data back to China investigation that these two congressmen are?
It's total BS. Okay. Like, I think that this is just a ploy. I tell you what it is. It's kind of interesting. One of the politicians who's initiated this, he's representing that
I see
geographic area. So I'm like, okay, so is this Moto lobbying to get OnePlus removed from the market?
I did not realize that was his district.
Do a bit of digging. One of the two politicians, I can't remember which one.
Yes, Raja Krishnamurthy. He's the sort of ranking Democrat on the committee who does.
That's right, and he's a Democrat, which is I'm like, what the hell, dude? Come on. But my point is, like, I think this is bad for OnePlus, but at the same time, let's see what happens, right? Like, it would be sad to not have OnePlus anymore because they're the only Chinese company that we still get that is official, that has good stuff, that brings us some of that crazy tech in advance of, the other big players adopting it. So, when I was at Google I/O, I talked to the Pixel guys, like the ones who, I can't remember their names, the guys who manage Pixel product. And
like CN and stuff?
Yeah. And I told them, I was like, they said, what's your, like, they know I'm a Pixel user. I'm like, tell me what your favorite Pixel would be if you made the ultimate Pixel. And I said, silicon carbon battery, 6,500 milliamp hour, 80 watt charging, all that stuff that basically OnePlus is doing. And they're like, oh, we don't want to do silicon carbon. These batteries are dangerous. They're not really good.
Oh, they pointedly said that to you?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, I kind of argued with them about it. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, seriously? Like it's one thing to say it's expensive. We don't have the labs to test it. We don't have the resource to do this right now. I know they would never say that, or say like, hey, stay tuned. Like that would be the thing to say, but like being vehemently against it, I'm like,
that's honestly a bit of a surprise. Yeah. Even Samsung, I think in the wake of like the Edge, I think everyone asked them essentially, why didn't you go silicon carbide? And even they were like, like we'll do it when the time is right.
We'll get there. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But to hear Google go there is a little weird.
So yeah, I don't know. I hope nothing bad happens. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's just a witch hunt about like trying to get Motorola some more love, and I don't know. Stuff like that's happened before. By the way, the watch, $299 US might be the price of the watch from OnePlus, the 43 millimeter, and $119 US for the buds, or 99, something like that. Look, it's a great price for those buds. You want really good buds. In my opinion, right now, as a kind of reluctant audiophile, I think that OnePlus and nothing makes the best earbuds. You can't go wrong right now. Like if I would pick that over AirPods. I would pick that over Samsung Galaxy Buds, like anytime. Like,
no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't matter which ones you buy. You can even buy the CMF, like the $60 nothing buds, and they're really amazing. So, you don't get the same battery life. The ANC is less strong. They feel cheap and plasticky at $60, but they sound great and they deliver you a good. And if you lose your earbuds a lot, $60 a pair is much easier than $250 a pair. So, but yeah, I mean, check that stuff out. We also got a couple of phones, but not in North America. The Nord 5 and the Nord CE5. This is a continuation of the Nord series. What stands out here is that the Nord 5 has a Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, and then the MediaTek Dimensity 8350 on the CE5. So the CE is a cheaper one. They're both very similar cosmetically. They have similar screens. One is 6.8, one is 6.7, but like 6.83 versus 6.77. You're talking almost nothing in difference in size. One is 1220p, kind of like, in between Quad HD and Full HD, and the other one's Full HD. Camera is a similar 50 megapixel main with OIS, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 50 megapixel selfie, and 16 megapixel selfie, and then 5200 milliamp hour battery for the global model. 6800 for India. You see that? 6800 for India. Insane. So yeah, this is where we're at with these. Only 80 watt wired. Only.
Well, yeah, we'll live with 80 watt wired.
And then prices are like 449 euros and 299 euros. They're basically mid-range phones. And the Nord's always been great. So, if you're in Europe and you're looking for an affordable price and you love yourself some OnePlus, these are going to be pretty great, I think. So there you go. Speaking of former BBK Group brands, Realme is always making some cool phones. I got the last few they sent, that GT7 with 7,000 milliamp hour battery. I've got the back panel of this phone. It's in a case, but the back panel of this phone is actually the moon. I don't know if you can see that.
I can't, but that's sick.
But this is the P3 Ultra that they come out with. That's another really affordable.
You just happen to have that one in your pocket.
$339 phone, and it kicks butt. And it's got a 6,500 milliamp hour battery. So that's my point. It's like Realme's doing some stuff. So keep your ears tuned on the July 26th launch of the 15 series. The 15 is their kind of mainstream product, right? They have a 15 Pro usually, and a 15 and a 15 Lite and a 15 Pro Plus sometimes. And the 15 line has always been, the higher tier of it has always been a very camera-centric experience on a mid-range phone.
I see.
So they've always delivered phenomenal cameras at like a $350 price point, which is why I want you guys to stay tuned, because it's like, who knows what they're going to bring to the table this time. Like, we've seen cameras like anything from 108 megapixel with OIS to like 3x periscope telephoto. They're one of the first to do that at a $350 price point. Before, nothing did it with the 3A Pro. So, stuff like that. So again, this is for the future. Mark your calendars. And we talked about the crazy Honor X70 with 8,300 milliamp hour. Oh God. How do you feel about this? Well, they didn't say they're leaving, but HMD are darlings. Ex-Nokia.
Yeah.
I don't know about darlings anymore, but I did like the Skyline. I thought it was a great phone. The only phone in North America, and I think one of the few phones worldwide, was Qi2 with magnets.
Right? Yeah.
With magnets. Look, apparently HMD is pulling out, not leaving necessarily, although I would read between the lines and say
this feels like
the US market, right?
Yeah, it's a bummer, right?
Inevitable.
Yeah, this was never going to last long term.
Terrorists probably killed them.
I would not be surprised at all if that was the case. I choose to remember the good old days. But I can't remember the last time I did not get to play with the Skyline. I can't remember the last time I played with an HMD phone that I really, really loved. It might have been like Nokia 9 or something back in
the crazy
the
5 camera like monster that needed a lot of tuning.
Yeah, well, it always felt like HMD, they produce quality stuff. They, I think, shined when they tried to go a little further afield and just raise the freak flag a little bit, like with a Nokia 9 PureView. So that, I think, has largely kind of fallen by the wayside. Skyline maybe was a notable exception to that, but
it was an okay phone overall. The only thing that really stood out was that it's very serviceable, so everything can be taken apart, like Fairphone, but more not as blatantly replaceable.
Yeah.
And then it had the Qi2 magnets built in, which was cool. But they weren't very strong, which was also weird. So it's like you had them, but then I wouldn't trust that phone to be on like a normal iPhone, selfie stick accessory or something that had magnets, because it might fall off.
Yeah, it's one of those, I always hoped HMD/Nokia would have made a bigger splash. The odds were kind of stacked against them kind of from the beginning. But this brings me no joy, right? Like anytime we lose a player in this already kind of dominated space, it's a loss and it feels bad. I want brands to crack this market or at least take a whack at it, and they did. But I wonder if this is, you know, an ill wind for anyone else who might consider trying to take a stab at it, you know?
I mean, the reality is that they started off with really trying to do some cool stuff in the US market, but they quickly gave up, and I'm not sure why. Like, there was like that Nokia branded HMD phone they did for Verizon that was a big flop, and I think that was the end for them, like of carrier partnerships at least. And that was, as soon as you lose the carriers, you know, like that is definitely a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, in the US, unfortunately. So I don't know. I felt like they weren't trying really hard, that they kind of gave up on the US market a long time ago. And then they kept pumping out these phones, you know, that nobody bought and nobody sold. Like, if you're going to buy a prepaid phone from like a prepaid carrier, or you go into Walmart and buy a phone that's like, you know, hanging there in the blister pack, you know, for $100 with service, it's probably going to be a Moto G. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was a time where it could have been a OnePlus N series. Remember the Nord N series? There was a time when it could have been an HMD phone, but nowadays it's the only player left in the US, really. LG, remember LG Stylo and all this?
Oh God. Yeah. I feel like the one kind of audience that I am aware of that might actually be genuinely sad to see HMD go are the sort of like digital minimalist, like the crossover between the digital minimalism community and the vintage kind of like nostalgia phone community, who went nuts for Barbie flip phone and like the Heineken phone, things that are so far out of the
we do have to give them props for the Barbie phone. I have the Barbie phone. It's cool.
People genuinely like Barbie phone. I think was actually quite cool. People genuinely flipped for the Heineken phone. It to this day, it kind of boggles my mind.
Well, this is also why I love Realme so much, because they have these weird partnerships. They had a Pepsi phone. I have it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it had sounds, you know, like the sound of you opening a can of Pepsi was one of like the notification sounds.
Was Realme like also the company that did like the onion skin looking phone from like 17, 18? Sorry, I can't remember. Random poll, but
there's a lot of Chinese phones that are themed. Like, you can get a Genshin Impact OnePlus 12R last year, I think it was. Like, there's partnerships, and this was even sold in the US. But my point is, like, the former BBK group, Oppo, Realme, OnePlus, have in the past done these special edition game and product.
Yeah, I've seen these
branded phones with, like, you know, custom accessories and stuff. It's pretty cool. I dig those. It's nice to have them.
Yeah.
Listen, Chris, we should wrap up. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet? Of course, WAPO, but like all the other stuff, the social media, any other cool stuff you're working on the side, you know?
Well, a couple things to flag. Check out the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. I also am sort of a creator now for reasons that are still great. I don't know. So you can find me at Your Pal Velasco on Instagram or TikTok. And since we were talking about the OnePlus thing, if any one of your esteemed listeners, Miriam, happens to know what specifically, or has access to the report that was given to these congressional members of the House Committee on the CCP or whatever, that kind of outlines the specific nitty-gritty details that kind of sparked this whole thing, I think you and I would love to see that. So maybe send those docs our way.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have access somehow, that'd be great. Let Chris know. And you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankgirl everywhere. TNKGRL is my handle, like the comic book character Tankgirl. Drop all the vowels and you get me on Blue Sky, Insta, Threads, Twitter, everywhere. But I'm mostly active on those first three. I'm also on Mastodon. I'm not on TikTok, though. But anyway, you'll find me. And please, chat with me and Chris about the podcast, your thoughts, whatever, corrections, any things you want to talk about. And then, again, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com on all the big platforms. So please subscribe. It's your first time here or whatever. Tell your friends as well. And, there's YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast with some videos. Recently, last week, I did a hands-on with all the different Samsung products that were announced at Unpacked. So check that out. And you know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And if you want to support me, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. As I mentioned, you get a video version of the podcast. Sometimes I leave extra content and bloopers in there. You get it in advance, a day in advance. It's a weekly thing, the podcast, so you get a show every week in advance, and it's $5 a month. Not bad at all. So if you want to support me, consider doing that. Check out patreon.com/TNKGRL. GRL. And the other way to support me is to get yourself some really cheap and awesome cell phone service from Mint Mobile. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Chris, such a pleasure to have you back on the show.
So good seeing you. It's been a while.
Yeah. Thanks for being my guest.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have you on the show again. And folks, we'll have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.